Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to work on a bowl from an interesting piece of wood. I often try and use pieces of wood that you probably shouldn't when wood turning, and this one is no exception. This wood is rotted. You can see the wood's just sloughing right off. As you pull at it, there's a whole bunch of bug and rot holes running through it. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull a bowl right out of this section where the worst of it is. I think it'll end up being really cool with all those voids in the bottom of the bowl. And so let's hit the bandsaw, cut out a blank, and then hit the lathe, start turning. Piece cut out on the bandsaw and mounted on a faceplate here on the lathe, you can really see how gnarly this is. Got some real rot coming through on the bottom with pieces just pulling right out. And again, there are holes and voids throughout this entire blank, and that is part of the appeal. This is going to be a piece that can never be replicated, as this piece of wood will never rot the same way. But with that said, let's get turning the outside, see what she looks like. Inside of turning this, because as we were turning this and we turned off all that wood on the outside, what you start to notice is that the rot really does come through, and big chunks like this just flew out. So this piece is no longer part of the bowl. We'll just toss that in the bin to get thrown out with the shavings. And so what you see is you have this nice big crazy ragged edge, and again, it will be a cool feature, but this is something you have to understand when you're turning pieces like this with this crazy profile and in wood that is this rotted. You get pieces where they are going to just let loose and fly out at you. And so I'm actually going to take the time and do something that's kind of odd for most people, but we're actually going to take this and we're going to rub the whole bowl down, all these rot spots, with a wire brush, and that should help loosen up all of the rotted areas, this loose material here, and really show kind of what's left. And again, the bowl shaping on something like this is rather simple because you are letting the natural features of the wood do most of the work. Now we're gonna do a step that is pretty unique to working with rotting wood and things like this, where you have all this loose wood. I actually have a drill with a wire brush in the end and just a handheld wire brush, and we're gonna go through and we're going to just brush over all these areas and see how much of that wood we can get to slough off, so that we are left with more of the solid wood that will again dictate what shape we are going for. So we're just gonna leave her as GB and start shaking. Now that we're done and we've wire wheeled and wire brushed this, again, you can see there are some really deep ravines and some of these things have opened up. And again, that's just merely going to help us figure out what shape to go with. Again, this is going to be a very simple shape for a bowl, but you have to understand the way that these inclusions and exclusions, as they would be, affect the bowl, and also how this is going to be remounted. Understanding that the craziness and chaos of this bowl, it's not going to be chucked. This piece will actually get spun around and also mounted on a screw chuck, and that way it'll be screwed from both sides. Again, a different way of mounting a bowl, but when you're working with a piece with this much chaos in it, and this few good wood, it is hard to get a chuck mounting point. So with that said, we're gonna get back to turning. Of working on a piece like this. Because of all the voids, because of all the gaps, it's really hard and dangerous to sand a piece like this on the lathe without nicking your fingers up pretty bad. So what I have is a pick and a brass brush, and we're going to use those two to really clean out all of these hollows, and then this is going to get sanded. Again, I will use a power sander on my drill, but I am not going to be using the power of the lathe. So this is going to be a rather time intensive and labor intensive process, but again, as you can see from the beginning stages of where we're at already, this is going to be a really cool and interesting bowl. So let's get to it. All right, so now that the piece is all sanded and finished, again, it has a lot of ridges and crazy figure and roughness to it, but that is part of what happens when you are working with a piece of wood. that is this rotted and filled with voids. What we're gonna do is add a finish. And again, I'm using walnut oil as I always do, but because of the voids, this is a very intensive and hand done process. Rather than polishing it on the lathe, we're gonna do it by hand. And again, you can see that really pops, but it also gets absorbed super quick as this dry rotted wood really absorbs a lot of finish. And so this is a time consuming process, but one that really does bring this piece to life. Finished piece. Again, you can see the hole in the back side. There is actually light coming through right here in this portion here where it has split through. And on a piece like this, you're never going to get a perfect finish. It's never going to be perfectly smooth. The punkiness, the rotted nature of this piece ensures that it'll never have a dead perfect finish. But that is kind of the appeal of a piece like this. This piece should not exist. This piece is filled with rot and bugs and voids and just all sorts of natural features that occur to wood as it breaks down. And so if you want to capture a piece like this and let it be in its natural state, there are going to be some rough features that come with it. So again, another very interesting and intricate bowl that for many people would have ended up on a scrap bin, but for me is one of my favorite, and again, a natural way to showcase the beauty of a piece that nature had already started to take back.